This is my 3-year-old mare from Massacre Lake, California. I'll hopefully be using her in the Mustang Champions competitions as well. She's a little bit bummed out right now because we just closed her stall door. I figured it would be better to work her without the option for her to go in there because she really does like going in there to take naps, and she's disappointed right now. So we'll see how the session goes. My goal is to get her to reach out and sniff me a few times. Just like with the gelding, the prior day probably was in her pen for like 5 to 10 minutes in the evening and just got her to come over and be curious, and she's really curious on her own. Like, there's been a bunch of us standing out on the rail. She's walking up and sniffing and kind of wanting to investigate with her mouth. She just seems like a very curious baby. So I'll see if I can keep her attention span long enough, because it seems like even though she's curious, she likes to keep her feet moving and going, and she doesn't like to stay still for very long. She says, oh hey. Not a big scaredy cat, but like I said, keeping the feet still might be a problem. So we'll start with some of the touching and seeing if she wants to reach out and sniff, and then I might go to the stick to reach out and touch her, which we might get a bigger reaction out of. And I was talking about this with the gelding, but it's a little easier to do that in a smaller sized pen. Good girl. The other perk of her is she has been itching her body on everything here. So her butt on the trees, on the panels, she's been rolling into the trees trying to alleviate her itch. And itchy horses are great because it's kind of nasty when you got to start bathing them because they're covered in dandruff, but it means they're going to like you a little sooner if you can find that scratchy spot on them. Good girl. You can already see a difference between her and the gelding. He kind of internalizes a little bit more, and she just likes to keep moving. She kind of just thinks of me as another thing or another task to sniff. So that's a little bit of the matching the steps. And I'm going to add a little energy there, and all I do to add energy is I kind of tap my thigh because I want those eyes good to be on me. Good girl. Good girl. I'll see if she can reach out one more time, and then I might move over to the stick to touching her neck or withers area. Good girl. So because she's curious, I'm gonna reach out with the stick to let her sniff it first. If I had one that was a little more shut down in the head, I would probably go directly to touching the neck or withers because it's a little bit less confrontation-like for them. They see those baby teeth, huh? Good girl. Good girl. So there's a few ways I can start to introduce the stick, through touch like I'm doing right now, or through desensitizing. So this is something you'll see later on too with both of the redheads, is I'm gonna be moving this stick back and forth while I'm stationary. I'll have no energy through it. And I want her to just settle and look at the stick. So I'll wait, and she can be as far away as she can be, but I just want her to keep her feet still and look this way. Good. Even if she walks this way towards me, I know this pen is a little bit odd shaped, I'm gonna release. With my release, I also backed up to give her some space. So again, I'm gonna look the other way and move my whip up and down. Good. If she looks, release and relax. So right now it's desensitizing. I don't want her to react to the stick, especially because I'm going to be using it like a tool right now to reach out and touch her. I don't want her to think of it as something with energy. Good. Good girl. Good girl. And the cool thing about desensitizing off the line is I can kind of gauge how interested she is when she gets close to it, and also see what her engagement is like if she's far away. Like, does she settle more when she's 20 feet away from me, or is she fine 10 feet away? So right now that's a little bit of avoidance and frustration. Good girl. She looks up at me and softens, and I'm going to release. Good. I'll go back to moving the stick. And I'm trying to teach her a little bit of a cue right now that if she looks towards the scary object, there's a release. Sometimes when I go to get touching with the stick, they move a lot, and that's why using a lunge whip is best, because you have the tail end and you can practice keeping your body still so you're not getting super high energy, kind of keeping up with them, and you can use the tail end from a further distance. Good girl. So first, when I go to do the touch, I'm going to try without the tail end, and I might just start moving it kind of near her withers. Good. If she wants to check it out with her face, that's fine. I'll give her space there. Good girl. And then again, kind of move it near her withers. Good. And sometimes when you touch them for the first time, they get a little nervous and run forward because it's such a light feeling from the whip. It's really not ideal. You want to have more substance when you're touching them. Good girl. Good. See how she kind of feels like it's a fly? There really wasn't much of a reaction other than the fact that it was something light touching her, and she was like, that's kind of uncomfortable. But I like that she's not reacting all too much about the object getting closer to her. She's a very confident horse. I just hope that it works to her advantage. There's a little bit of a response because she can see it in her other eye, so I'm going to release because she was good and didn't move off. Good girl. Good. And if you notice, every time it's either going over her a little more or I'm scooching my hand down the stick. So this is how I start to make my approach closer to her. Good girl. I'm going to try to do less time near her and more frequent releases, just because she did put herself in a corner right there. If she stays off the corner, I can stay for a little bit longer, but the reason being, if she's in the corner, I don't want to stay for too long, is because I don't want her to feel trapped and like she doesn't have a way to get anywhere. Good girl. She has such a little baby Winnie. She has it trickier than the other ones. Like I said earlier, there's 4 Mustangs here right now, and all of them can touch noses. And I have my middle pen right behind hers. It's open right now. Eventually the red gelding will stay in that one. Good girl. I'm gonna release because she was looking at me. But I like to have them be a little bit more solo. Typically I only pick up 1 Mustang at a time, but I don't want them to feel super bonded to the other horses. Good. I want them to make that connection with me first. Good girl. So now she changed the angle, so I have to decide if I want to approach from straight on or go back to the side. Good girl. But you can tell how busy-minded she is. She's just looking for a friend. So I think if I can keep her separate for a little bit longer, hi, sweet girl, I could get her to connect a little bit more with me. Hi. So like here, I wanted to work on touch and scratching the neck, but because she's being curious and sniffing each time, I'm actually working on touching the side of the face when she does that. She's kind of resting her head right on my wrist when she goes around that way. You're so cute. You're just so cute. And if you've noticed, like little by little, I've scooched my hand down the stick and I have only about 8 inches left on it. The reason it's so important, even though I'm so close to just being able to touch her, that I keep the stick out here, some horses, probably not her, but some of them really do need that stick there, even when you're at the very end and the tip of it, to be that familiar tool that you've been using in the exercise. So it gets a little tiring with your arm and you have to kind of hold it up some with your elbow. Good girl. I might be able to hold it up like this. So I'm going to try to put the stick down, see if we can get a similar reaction. Good girl. Does that feel okay? I don't want you to bite me back. Thank you. Good girl. Sometimes moving the hand a little bit before you touch them gets them used to that movement. Again, she's not as reactive. Like, she's scratching her nose on the post right now as I'm touching her. And her head is up and she's listening and her eye is blinking. She's not really in a frozen state. She would be one that would be most likely to nip at me out of curiosity or maybe bossiness. Good girl. You like the scratches? I'll probably just go up and pet her 1 or 2 more times and then that can be it for her for right now. Sweet. All right, that'll be the end of her first session. So in the second session, hopefully we'll pick up right there pretty fast, start working on touching more of her face, maybe a little further back on the withers, and then we might either introduce touching on the other side or tossing the string over her head to prep for haltering.